Listen, you want to be here watching Guns N' Roses? Hey
everybody, what's going on? And welcome to Guns N' Roses Central. And today I want to talk about how Axl Rose almost broke up Velvet Revolver in 2006. Now, 2005 and 2006 was a pretty tumultuous time for Velvet Revolver. There was lots of rumors that the band members fell off the wagon, which most of them did. There was rumors that the band was breaking up, that Axl was going to be recruiting Slash and Duff McKagan and Matt Sorum to rejoin Guns N' Roses. But here's a clip from the 2015 documentary It's So Easy and Other Lies that was based off Duff McKagan's book, where they talk about what was going on in Velvet Revolver in 2005-2006 in terms of the tension between the band members and the substance abuse issues.
We flew out to New York to master the record, and when the record was finished, we were at Sterling Sound, and high up on a shelf somewhere in the studio there was an unopened bottle of Jack Daniels. And so I fell off the wagon that night.
And I remember I was the first one that fell off, and everyone kind of looked at me like I was the Antichrist, you know? It's like, this sucks. I remember this is the fucking most boring shit. I'd go backstage, and they'd be sitting there, these guys would be reading books and shit. And I'm like, what the fuck just happened to rock and roll? You know? Really? Is this how we're gonna do this?
You'll get an extended adolescence by being a musician that's working, period. So there's just no rules, really.
One of my lowest bottoms during that, and I allowed it. I watched it happen, and I allowed myself to go down that path. I actually was very aware of it and conscious of it, and just kept going down that rabbit hole to see where it was going to lead. And when I finally got to the bottom, I was like, you know what? After all these years and this and that and the other, this sucks. You know, by the end of 2005, everybody was pretty fucked up on something.
It was like living the old life again, you know. So Slash is drinking, I was getting drunk and doing my share of drugs. But Duff had gone into this sneaky pill popping thing. I think in his mind, pills would be okay. That won't affect my pancreas, right?
I remember the moment thinking about the pills in my backpack, and I knew the moment I thought about it, like, you're in trouble. I'm working a game, and Dave, you know, he's like, dude, what's going on with you? And you know, I lied to him. That's what you do.
I'm like, dude, what did you take today? He's like, oh, I just took some blah, 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 and he bullshitted. You're fucking off the wagon, dude.
Xanax is in the same family, actually, as alcohol. It's a benzodiazepine, which is the same feeling you get when you drink.
In a week's time, I was at 22 milligrams, so 22 of those pills a day.
He just was like, everything was slow motion. I knew at that point, like, okay, you're taking pills again, and you're not just taking them to fly.
When I knew he was in trouble, so I found him on the tour bus, passed out on the toilet in the tour bus. And he was in there for like fucking 2 hours.
Now, it seemed like Velvet Revolver was on the verge of breaking up in the spring of 2006, and Axl Rose only added fuel to the fire. But before that happened, Velvet Revolver had a lot of issues with management between the band members. So apparently the band members couldn't agree on who should manage the entire band, so some band members got their own manager. So according to Slash's book, he said when Velvet Revolver got signed, got our album together, and set out to prepare to tour, we underwent a change in management that I didn't agree with at all. That eventually led me to find my own manager separate from the band. In theory, that sounded like a logical solution to me, but all that did in reality was alienate me from the rest of the guys and cause a great degree of animosity amongst us and amongst the management teams whenever a business arrangement came up. This situation added an extra level of stress that 2 years on the road did nothing but escalate. The tension never affected our chemistry on stage or creatively, but on a day-to-day interpersonal level, things were touchy, and basically by the end of the tour, everyone was at one another's throats. I stand by my decision, but I understand now that it made me a pain in the ass to the rest of the band. Slash said it was around this time that Axl chose to send out a press release that did nothing but add fuel to the fire, and it's been widely documented, so I won't do it justice by getting into all of it. But in short, Axl released a statement claiming that I'd come by his house extremely coherent early one morning to ask him to please settle the lawsuit between us that had been ongoing for years at that point. It's also claimed that he and I talked for a while and that I had nothing but disparaging comments to make make about Scott Weiland and everyone else in the band. The truth is, I haven't spoken a word to Axl personally since I left the band in 1996. I did go by his house one night, but I was drunk, Perla wasn't, and she was driving. I walked up to the door and delivered a note that read something like, "Let's work this out, call me, /" But I didn't give it to Axl, I gave it to his assistant. In any case, Axl released a statement, and it was a big deal in the press because it was the first time that Axl had gone public with his opinion about me, the lawsuit, or anything else like that. And as I've said, this incident was widely reported in the press and on the internet. Now anyone else who is interested can go read all about it if they choose to do so. The fact of the matter is, this incident and the resulting negative effect it had on Velvet Revolver was extremely unsettling to me, and I can barely even talk about it still, let alone recreate it in detail here. I thought I was going to see everything I just finally gotten together fall apart. Now, what had ended up happening, according to Axl's statement he put out, is that / showed up sober to Axl's house and made disparaging comments about Scott Weiland and everyone else in the band. Now, you guys may be asking, well, why did / even go to Axl's house? And it really had to do with the lawsuit that was going on between Axl, / and Duff. So it had been going on since about 2001, and / said in his book, for fear of further litigation, the easiest way to explain it is that since 2001, we were involved in a lawsuit over the rights and profits stemming from licensing and merchandise. It was a typical broken up band litigation where one party complains of underpayment by another party, and the road of rock and roll is littered with that kind of shit. But what hurt the most was that I had to defend myself to the band. I showed up and insisted that what was alleged wasn't true, but the way that Axl had written this thing made it sound so matter of fact that everyone seemed to think it was. The guys were very dubious about accepting my theory, and at the same time, I was very sincere about telling them the truth. At first I thought I should respond publicly and told my band I would, but later decided it would only complicate the issue and prolong it. And I wasn't sure what to do. I still wanted to proceed, and my credibility was riding on it. We had a band meeting a few days later, and Scott didn't show, and it was obvious to me that since I hadn't made a move, I'd let him down. Then Scott released his own rebuttal. He attacked Axl on every level. My instinctual reaction wasn't, "You're right." It was, "You can't talk shit about Axl. I can talk shit about Axl. I can talk shit about Axl all day if I want to, but that's because I've had to deal with him for years." But neither Scott nor anyone else had that right. Tensions in the band escalated as a result, and I got my gear out of Matt Sorum's home studio, where we'd been writing and rehearsing. And word on the street was that I'd quit Velvet Revolver to rejoin Guns N' Roses. I didn't know who started the rumor, but it had legs enough that it caused an exhausting internal battle. And the media took a particular liking to that story, that / had ditched his former Guns bandmates to rejoin Axl in whatever his idea of Guns N' Roses was going to be. And at that point, I think Chinese democracy was still thought to be on its way any year now. So / reportedly responded that as far as he knew, he was still in the band despite rumors to the contrary. Now, as previously reported, rumors of trouble in the Velvet Revolver camp have been swirling around the group for the past few months, with several reports suggesting that much of the strife between / and the rest of the camp stems from / wife Perla's alleged involvement in the band's business affairs. The situation allegedly came to a head the previous week after an attempt was made by attorneys to mediate the matters related to the lawsuits filed by / as well as Duff McKagan against GNR frontman Axl Rose over the rights to the old songs, and the rumors continued to gain strength a few days later when unconfirmed reports surfaced that / had picked up his gear from Velvet Revolver's rehearsal studios after allegedly announcing he was leaving the group. Now, even Axl Rose's representative had to put out a statement shooting down persistent rumors that former GNR members / Izzy and Duff were in talks with Rose about taking part in a reunion tour this summer. Now, not only was / rumored to be going back to Guns N' Roses, at one point in 2006, Matt Sorum was rumored to be going back to Guns N' Roses as well. Here's an interview with him from that time period asking him about those alleged rumors.
In yet another Guns N' Roses related rumor going around the internet, the latest is that drummer Matt Sorum will rejoin Axl Rose and Guns N' Roses for the new album and a tour. The current Velvet Revolver and ex-cult skin basher was amused by the reports. Sorum told us that his part in the Guns N' Roses story seems like another person's life.
You know, I haven't really thought about Axl in a long time, to be honest. You know, I kind of left that behind me in 1996. That's 10 years ago. That's a whole other lifetime. You know, I was in that band, you know, but I look at it like it was somebody else's movie. You know, we got off the road in 1993. That was the last time Guns N' Roses played. So that's been 13 years since I played in that band, really. And you know, I've done 5-6 albums since then, and you know, 10 tours, and you know, and Axl hasn't done. So I don't know. You know, I don't know what to tell you.
Now, there was even magazine articles printed saying Axl offers millions to reform GNR. So one magazine article claimed that, did Axl try to get the classic lineup back together? Are GNR playing 2 dates in the UK this summer? Did / call Duff spineless? what is going on. So according to the article, an alleged attempt by Axl Rose to reform Guns N' Roses with most of its original members appears to have sparked a vicious war of words and a series of lawsuits. According to a Guns N' Roses insider, the current acrimony between Axl and former GNR members and Velvet Revolver frontman Scott Weiland would stem from an extraordinary offer made by Axl to his former colleagues to reform the band. A few months ago, the rock rumor mill went into overdrive when whispers that Axl was going to reunite with Slash, Duff, Izzy, and drummer Matt Sorum for an appearance at this year's Download Festival. Now, when GNR's Download Festival rumors were confirmed last month, it seemed like the classic case of Chinese whispers. Guns were playing, but who could we expect to see? Axl, Buckethead, and a load of hired, guns? But an inside source in the GNR camp has sensitively revealed to Classic Rock magazine that attempts were made to reform the classic lineup of the band in the last few months, and that Slash, Duff, Izzy, and Matt were all interested. Now, according to our insider, Axl approached the former members of GNR with a proposal to reunite for 2 gigs, and one was this year's Download Festival, and the other the following week was at the Hammerstein Ballroom. Both would be filmed and recorded for a DVD and live album, and each member would receive millions in payments. One source claimed that Slash, Duff, Izzy, and Matt Sorum all loved the idea, but not only was the money good, it was a perfect way of making the 20th anniversary of GNR until someone's lawyer had a good look at the contract. It's alleged that the small print stated that in agreeing to the terms and conditions, all rights to the GNR name and back catalog would transfer to Axl, and negotiations ended. Now, from what the band members have said, this doesn't seem to be a true story that the band was ever going to reform in 2006, but Slash was on Howard Stern's show in 2012, where at that point he said he didn't see a GNR reunion happening and saying that they'd probably be offered boatloads of money to rejoin.
Are you missing the original Guns N' Roses?
Was I in the original?
Are you missing the original Guns? Are you missing those days? I don't miss
it. Well, it's been a really long time.
It is, but yet it seems like so.
It's one of those kind of things where when it was at its coolest was really sort of before the 90s.
Right.
And that's something that you don't miss something like that. That's like, you do something really cool and you can't really recreate it, and you don't want to, I don't know, I don't dwell in the past like
But don't you think you could have made, where the music, when we were talking about how, bands, they create a sound, and they create a kind of song.
Yeah, I'll give you an example.
And when they break up, nobody can really create what they did again.
Yeah, Slash.
You have that stuff that was recorded, which is cool.
Yeah, but Slash, what Robin's referring to is, just give me a second here to give you the theory. The way we see it. The way the Stern Show sees it. I was watching Mick Jagger on Saturday Night Live. I don't know if you watched it at all. Okay, I love Mick Jagger. I love the Stones. And he performed with the Foo Fighters, and he performed with Arcade Fire, and he performed even with Jeff Beck, which Jeff Beck's an incredible guitarist. True?
Oh, Jeff's my favorite guitarist.
Yeah, I think he maybe is certainly one of mine.
Yeah.
And as good as those moments were, and it was fun, it felt like the old Saturday Night Live when there was something exciting happening. When he's not standing there with the Stones, it's just not the same. And I can't put my finger on why. I can't tell you exactly. I mean, all the musicians in the Foo Fighters are fabulous musicians. It just wasn't the Stones, And it's the same thing with Guns N' Roses. Forget the money that's on the table. If Axl could get his shit together and get back with you, I mean, I can't even imagine.
It would never happen.
What? I know I've asked you this 100 years ago, but I don't understand what's going on. Like, he hates you. Axl hates you.
Well, he I mean, that's pretty obvious, but
why? Do you have any? Have you ever seen a shrink about that? Have you ever said, I got to do some introspection here? What did I do to set this guy off?
I know exactly what it was.
What was it?
I didn't, Axl had a plan to sort of take over the whole sort of Guns N' Roses thing. And we gave up the name and all that kind of stuff, and no one really gave a shit.
Right.
Because the premise was if it breaks up, then I want to keep the name. If it breaks up, no one cares.
Right.
And then when he started to put together his own Guns N' Roses, and it was a contract, and I was like, and that was it. And so it's been, and also because when I first, I'm just spitballing, but when I first joined Velvet Revolver, and I hadn't been asked really too much about the sort of Guns N' Roses stuff, and it brought up a very bitter, so next thing you know, there was this whole sort of press run where I really sort of denounced
Axl and that whole thing, and I'm sure that had some stuff to do with it. But what, the thing is I don't dwell on all that stuff. I mean, I'm not real fond of it either.
You're not fond of him either.
But I don't want to take that route. I don't have time to be worrying about it, and it's not really, outside of dealing with media stuff, it's not really a concern.
I guess people don't.
Thanks for watching, guys. That does it for today's video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And were you guys following the Velvet Revolver drama back in 2006? Put your comments down below, and make sure you hit the like button and subscribe for the latest Guns N' Roses news and more cool true stories just like this. And go check us out at GNRCentral.com for the latest and greatest news. Take care.
Hey, this is Dizzy Reed from Guns N' Roses, and you're watching GNR Central. Yeah!